Hello everyone and welcome back to the JavaScript course. Today we are going to learn about one of the most important concepts in programming, and that is loops. Loops help us repeat a block of code again and again without writing it multiple times. Let's start with the first and most commonly used loop in JavaScript, which is the for loop. Here is the basic structure of a for loop for then open brackets. And under that brackets, initialization, then condition, and then increment, and then we'll open the curly brackets, and under that brackets we will write the / code to run in each loop. Now let me explain this step by step. First comes initialization. In this part, we usually declare a variable and set its starting value. For example, let I equals 0. Next comes the condition. This condition is checked before every loop iteration. If it is true, the loop will continue. If it becomes false, the loop will stop. Then we have the increment or decrement. This is used to increase or decrease the value of our variable after each loop. Let's see a practical example. All right, so first we write for, then open the brackets, and here we will first create a variable so we can directly create it inside the brackets. So we write let, and you can give any name to the variable I am giving. After that, we add a semicolon. And yes, you can create the variable directly inside this, or if you want, you can also create it outside like this. And then inside the brackets, just write the variable name. After that, we need to give a condition. So we write I less than 5, and then semicolon, and then we give increment or decrement. So for increment, we write the variable name I, and then plus. And after that, we open curly brackets, and here we write console.log. This is loop number, and then plus. Right. So, all right, what we did here is first we created a variable and set its value to 0. Then we said that the condition for the loop to run is that the value of I should be less than 5 right after that. For increment, we wrote I++, now I will run the code and show you. So as you can see, it ran console.log 5 times. So now let's understand how it worked. So the code started running from here. We created a variable with value 0. Then it went to the condition and checked if the value of I is less than 5. And if it is not, then it goes back and does not run the code, right? But since the value was less than 5, the condition was true. So it moved forward and printed 0 using console.log. Then it came back and checked again if the value of I is still less than 5. Yes, it was. And then it did plus, which means it added 1 to the value, so it became 1. And this time 1 got printed, and it kept doing the same every time. And as long as the value was less than 5, it kept running. But as soon as the value became equal to 5, it stopped running the code. So I hope you understood how this works. All right, so now we are going to learn about the while loop. The while loop is also used to repeat a block of code, but its structure is a bit different from the for loop. Here's the basic structure of a while loop. While, condition, code to run while the condition is true. Let's understand this step by step. First, we give a condition inside the brackets. As long as that condition is true, the loop will keep running. As soon as the condition becomes false, the loop stops. But in while loop, we have to handle the variable and its increment manually. Let's take an example. So here, first we created a variable I and gave it value 0. Then we wrote a while loop where the condition is I less than 5. Inside the loop, we wrote console.log and printed the message. And then we increased the value of I using I++. So now if we run the file, you can see it's printing. Now let me explain how this runs. First I is 0, the condition I less than 5 is true. So the code runs, it prints loop number 0, then I becomes 1. Again, the condition is true, so it runs again. It keeps doing this until I becomes 5. As soon as I is 5, the condition I less than 5 becomes false, and the loop stops. Now remember one important thing. If you forget to increase the value of I or forget to change the condition, then your loop can run forever, and your browser or system may freeze. So always make sure your while loop has a way to stop. That is how a while loop works in JavaScript. Now, we are going to learn about the do-while loop. This loop is very similar to the while loop, but with one important difference. In the while loop, the condition is checked first and then the code runs, but in the do-while loop, the code runs first and then the condition is checked. That means even if the condition is false, the code will still run at least once. Here is the structure of a do-while loop. Do, code to run, while, condition. Let's take an example to understand this. So in this code, we first created a variable I and set it to 0. Then we used the do block to write our code. Inside it, we printed a message using console.log and then increased the value of I using I++. After that, the condition is written outside using while. Now let's see how this runs. First, the code inside the do block runs. So it prints loop number 0, then it checks the condition I less than 5. Since I is 1 now, and 1 is less than 5, the loop runs again. It keeps running until I becomes 5. Then the condition becomes false, and the loop stops. Now, let me show you something interesting. What if the condition is false in the beginning? So if we do let I equal sign 10, do char console.log, this will still run once, even if the condition is false. I++, while I 5. Here the value of I is already 10. The condition I less than 5 is false. But still, the code inside do runs once. That is the special thing about the do while loop. It will always run at least one time, even if the condition is false. And that is how the do while loop works in JavaScript. All right, so use for loop when you know how many times the loop should run, because everything, initialization, condition, and increment, is written in one line. And use while loop when you don't know how many times the loop should run, but you must manually handle variable creation and increment and do while loop. Almost same as while loop, but it runs at least once, even if the condition is false. So yeah, I hope you learned something. Don't forget to join our Discord, because I upload a video here every day. And on Discord, I give tasks so you can practice what you've learned.